filled it. And they stopped up all the springs of water and cut down all the good trees. But they left the stones of Kir Hareseth intact. However, the slingers surrounded and attacked it. This is their last stronghold. And they wound up not taking it. But they did everything that Elisha said that they would do and should do. Verse 26, and when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too fierce for him, he took with him 700 men and drew swords to break through to the king of Edom. But they could not. And he took his eldest son, who would have reigned in his place, and offered him as a burnt offering upon the wall. And there was great indignation against Israel. So they departed from him and returned to their own land. See, this was the practice of pagan kings. When in battle, if they were losing, they felt like, okay, my God is upset with me, so I'm going to have to sacrifice to him. That's what happened. And it was such a foul thing for the Israelites to see it, they left. They turned them away. It says that great indignation. There was great indignation. So they departed and returned to their own land. It was such a foul thing to see them, this man slaughter his own son on the wall. The king was trying to appease the Moabite god of Shamash. And that's who he's offered his son to. So we see here Elisha describe the situation, and it happened. What do we call a person who tells something was going to happen, then it happens? A prophet. And I remember how Elijah was discouraged. How do you think Elijah would be if he's looking down on Elisha, seeing these things happen? I think it might have picked him up a little bit. Of course, he got a real good pickup when he got to go to heaven. Good pick me up.
Right.
But now he's seeing, hey, this young man I threw my mantle on, hey, he's doing some pretty cool stuff. Mm-hmm. He is carrying on what I started. And now the next story is in 2 Kings 4. And this is an interesting thing about these stories I'm about to tell involve some women. And you have to remember, in their culture, the women, weren't considered to be that much in society, right? Culturally. Mm-hmm. They were wives and they bore children, but they were subservient. They had no say in things. Mm-hmm. But here's this prophet is dealing with women. Mm-hmm. Helping women. A widow. And a woman who is trying to help him or be gracious to him. But it says in 2 Kings 4, a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets. The prophets weren't celibate, were they? No, they had wives. They weren't Catholic. Mm-hmm. A woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried out to Elisha, saying, your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared the Lord, and the creditor is coming to take my 2 sons to be his slaves. This is what happened in that culture of that day. Mm-hmm. If you owed her debt, they just come take your sons to be slaves to repay the debt. So she was a widow. She didn't have any income to pay debts, and she's about to lose the rest of her family. Mm. Put yourself in that situation.
Wouldn't the family come rescue them if they could?
Apparently not.
Yeah.
Apparently she was alone. Mm-hmm. But she knew who to run to.
Yep. True.
So Elisha said to her, what shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house? And she said, your maidservant has nothing in the house but a jar of oil. A small jar of oil. That's all she had. Mm-hmm. Then he said, go borrow vessels from everywhere, from all your neighbors, empty vessels, and do not gather just a few. Go get as many as you can. Mm-hmm. Now, how many times do we see Jesus take something very small and do something very big with it. It's the same thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Something very small, but something big is getting ready to happen with it.
Yeah.
And this is a precedent. Then he said, go borrow vessels from everywhere and all your neighbors, not just a few. And when you have come in, you shall shut the door behind you and your sons. Then pour into all those vessels and set aside the full ones. You think she was scratching her head right then? What? You want me to? Well, obviously, he didn't want the neighbors to see what was going on. Because they probably always wind up pestering for some more. I don't know. But it was done in secret. But she's saying, you want me to take this and fill those?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm.
But it says,
Yeah.
so she went from him and shut the door behind her son, who brought the vessel to her, and she poured it out. She didn't hesitate. She listened to what the man told her to do.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say she questioned it, doubted it, thinking, how in the heck? What?
Mm-hmm.
Really? What?
Right.
She did it. She did it.
Well, verse 1 says that
Now, man,
she was the wife of the son of prophet, so she had prophet running in her family.
oh, okay. And now it came to pass when the vessels were full that she said to her son, bring me another vessel. And he said to her, there isn't another one. So the oil ceased. See, if she'd had more vessels, it would have kept on pouring.
Mm-hmm.
And once they were all full,
Didn't
Yes,
have
sir.
bathtubs back then.
then,
Really.
then she came and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil and pay your debt, and you and your sons live on the rest. So here we have an example of the manifestation of abundance coming from something small.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, abundance coming from a little. 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Fed 10,000,
Yeah.
more than that. 5,000 men, but how many women and children were there? It was a massive amount, but it came from a boy's lunch.
A little mustard seed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So I have the belief, personally, I have a belief that when the time comes and if we get to the place where we're having to fight all this evil and standing up as children of God, standing for black and white, that there is truth. Truth is black and white.
Mm-hmm.
There's no massive amount of gray area in truth. It's either it is or it isn't. The truth. There's nothing in between. It's either truth or it's not. And when they try to throw in all this other stuff to get you to compromise, to get you to coexist, how much have we talked about coexist? Go along, get along, go with the flow, which is what a lot of people are acquiescing to. They're giving in. No.
Mm-mm.
We have to take a stand, and when we do, God is going to provide.
Yeah.
I think we'll have a chili pot on the stove that we keep dipping out of, and it just keep feeding people out of it because it just keeps coming. The multiplication, abundance from little. I think we're on the cusp of seeing mighty miracles. Why should these kinds of miracles be just for back then and not now? Why can't we walk in the same time? We should be walking in more power now than they were walking in then.
Yes, it's good.
Those were specific places and incidents where God poured out his power in one place, in one spot, in one person. But what about all of us who are children of God? It should be even more so. That's what I'm looking for.
Can I say something?
Who?
Me?
Yeah.
It's happening now. It's happening now. If you listen to testimonies of Heidi Baker's ministry over
She's
there,
had it happen.
I mean, she's had frozen chicken sit on the hot runway for 2 days, not melt at all. It's a story that goes with it, but it just stayed frozen. And she said, "I didn't know you had a refrigerator here." I said, "We don't." And I know a pastor in New York. She told the testimony, so it was firsthand. She told, well, second me, she told that when the first time the floods hit Louisiana, her and her husband wanted to do something, so they took the money they had, which wasn't a lot, and they got a couple loaves of bread and some lunch meat. That's all they had. They drove down there and they gave out hundreds of sandwiches. With just, she said, the meat didn't deplete and the bread didn't. As they handed it out, it just didn't go down. And that was her, or she heard it.
Mm-hmm. Heidi Baker had a testimony where they were having some kind of big gathering, and they had only invited so many people, and they only had enough food for so many people, and a whole bunch of other people showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "There's just no way," but they just started handing it out. They had stuff left over when it was done.
That's great.
Yeah.
It is happening.
Yeah, it is happening.
Mm-hmm.
It is happening. It has happened. And it's going to happen. Jesus said we get to do greater things.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to be able to fathom. Just get ready. See, as much as we see all this evil going on around us, we can't really dwell on it.
Yeah.
I've got to where I'm just hardly watching the news anymore. Because it's almost always, every day it's almost the same thing. All the corruption going on in Washington, D.C. and the border being destroyed. In COVID, that's all you see.
That's it.
I'll turn it off for a few minutes. Oh, same old story, and turn it off again.
Yeah.
It's the fear broadcast.
Yeah.
Broadcasting fear, constant fear.
Yeah. Oh, we're here. We're big government. We're here to solve your problems. We'll take care of this for you.
Yeah, right.
I work for the government, and I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
That's what Reagan said. These are the last words you ever want to hear. I'm work for the government, and I'm here to help you.
Yeah, right.
Help you.
Huh?
Help you.
Yeah, help you. Here to help you. Now it happened one day that Elisha went to Shunem, where there was a notable woman, and she persuaded him to eat some food. So it was, as often as he passed by, he would turn in there and eat some food. And she said to her husband, "Look now, I know that this is a holy man of God who passes by us regularly. Please let us make a small room on the wall, and let us put a bed for him there, and a table and a chair and a lampstand. So it'll be whenever he comes to us, he can turn in there." And it happened one day that he came there, and he turned in the upper room and lay down there. So this was a notable woman. This is a rich woman. This is a woman who has some standing in the community. It says she was a notable woman. Therefore, her husband was also. But she wanted to take care of this man of God. It says in verse 12, then he said to Gehazi's servant, "Call the Shunammite woman." When he had called her, she stood before him, and he said to him, "Say now to her, look, you have been concerned for us with all this care. What can I do for you? You want me to speak on your behalf to the king or the commander of the army?" Ooh. That's a big thing he said he's demonstrating or saying he's willing to do. Go talk to the king? What can I do for you? And she answered, "I dwell among my own people." What kind of answer is that to his question? I dwell among my own people. What is it, folks? It's an idiom.
Mm-hmm.
It's an idiom. It means I'm content with my life. I'm satisfied with my life right now. That's what it means. I have no need. I'm perfectly content. Anytime you read something and it doesn't seem like a proper response to the question, you better think, what is this?
And if you think about that, if you break that down, of course that's what it means. Because when you dwell among your own people, your needs are taken care of.
That's good, girl.
So when you're reading the Bible and you come across an odd response, like the several we've already seen today, you better think, okay, well, I better dig in and find out what this means. Because it's like you heard these nonsense jokes. How many pancakes does it take to cover a dog's house? None, because hair doesn't grow on a football.
What?
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense, right?
What's the
Well,
idiom?
the point is, this response to his question seems like that. It's like
Right,
incongruous.
right.
It doesn't make sense that response doesn't make sense to the question.
Right.
Okay. So therefore, you gotta, okay, am I dealing with an idiom here? And then you need to go find out what it means. I'm satisfied with my life. I don't have any needs. I just want to take care of you, man of God. Okay. So he said, what then is it to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, actually, she has no son, and her husband is old. So he said to her, call her. When he called her, she stood in the doorway. Then he said, about this time next year, you shall embrace a son. And she said, no, my lord, man of God, do not lie to your maidservant. But the woman conceived and bore a son when the appointed time had come, of which Elisha had told her. Now, you have to understand, in this culture, we've seen instances in the past where if a woman was barren, it was a shame to her and a disgrace.
Mm-hmm.
Who else do we know of that felt that way? Hannah, right? And she bore Samuel.
Elizabeth.
Huh?
Elizabeth.
Right. Old.
Rachel.
And it says her husband was old. So this is a miracle going on here. This is older folks having children. She's gone a long time without a son.
Mm-hmm.
But Elisha said, about this time next year, you're going to embrace a son, and it happened. What do we call someone who says something's going to happen and it happens?
Prophet.
A prophet.
Yeah.
So far, he's batting 100% as near as I can tell. But it didn't stop there. Verse 18, the child grew. Now it happened one day, he went after his father to the reapers. And he said to his father, my head, my head. So he went to a servant to carry him to his mother. When he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon and then died.
Mm.
He must have had maybe a brain aneurysm, something in his head that caused him to die. Or the only thing I think of is an aneurysm. You know what an aneurysm is, right? Burst artery. You get one of those in your head, you're done.
Yeah. Brain bleed.
And it gives a severe headache when it hits.
Yeah.
So he probably had a brain aneurysm, just a guess. Something very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he died. And she went up and laid on him the bed. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, shut the door upon him, and went out. And she called her husband and said, please send me one of the young men and one of the donkeys, that I may run to the man of God and come back. So he said, why are you going to him today? It is neither a new moon nor Sabbath. And she said, it is well. What, Myra? Okay. What is her response to this death? You know what? This man of God told me I'm going to have a son. Now he's gone. This doesn't make sense. Why would this man of God do this for me and then my son die like this when he's young?
Yeah.
And she immediately took him and laid him on the man of God's bed. And then she's getting ready to take off, go find him. And she even tells her husband, no, it will. It's okay. Why did she say it's well? How could it possibly be
Well,
well?
that's a woman saying it's fine. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm fine. It's fine. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Well,
Everything.
she didn't want to tell him because it would drag out, and he might say, forget about it. You're crazy. Don't go do this. You're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Right? He might have responded that way.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, in her mind, Elisha's going to take care of this.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm determined.
Yes.
Even though it looks bad, it is well.
Call those things that be not. Yeah.
Right.
Okay? It is well. It's okay.
It's gonna be fine.
You know, I'm real upset about this, but it's going to be all right. Why would he say it's neither a new moon nor a Sabbath? What are those in Jewish culture?
Oh, it's special days.
Yeah, new moon is what? Rosh Chodesh, right? Head of the month?
Mm-hmm.
That's only when a new moon is?
Yeah,
I didn't know
yeah.
that.
New moon is Rosh Chodesh. First day of the month.
Huh.
See, the 14th day of the month is full moon. First day of the month is black. New moon. That's what that's referring to. That's what that means. Or Sabbath. It's
That's what I thought.
Saturday. It's not a holy day. Why are you going after this guy?
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
24. Then she saddled a donkey and said to her servant, drive and go forward and do not slacken the pace for me unless I tell you. And so she departed and went to the man of God at Mount Carmel. So it was when the man of God saw her afar off that he said to his servant, Gehazi, look, the Shunammite woman, please run now and meet her and say to her, is it well with you? Is it well with your husband? Is it well with your child? And she answered, it is well. How could she possibly say it is well? Verse 27, and when she came to the man of God at the hill, she caught him by the feet. But Gehazi came near to push her away. But the man of God said, let her alone, for her soul is in deep distress, and the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me. So she said, did I ask a son of my Lord? Did I not say, do not deceive me? Then he said to Gehazi, get yourself ready and take my staff. Where's my staff? Right here behind me.
Such a kid.
Get yourself ready and take my staff in your hand and be on your way. If you meet anyone, do not greet him. And if anyone greets you, do not answer him. But lay my staff on the face of the child.
Jesus.
He immediately knew something was wrong, even though he didn't ask her, just by her response. See, he knew something was wrong. And he told Gehazi to take my staff and go straight there. And he says, if you meet somebody, don't greet them. And if anyone greets you, don't answer him. That means you go and you don't stop for anything. Don't say anything to anybody. Don't stop and talk to anybody. In their culture, if someone greeted you, you go, hey, good morning, good morning. Hey, how's it going for you today? Oh, it's going all right, great. Where are you headed, sir? I'm going to so-and-so.
Shavua tov.
Huh? Get in this conversation, you know. And then you go a few more feet. Good morning, how you doing? Oh, how you doing? Where are you headed? Oh, I'm going. Because in the culture, they would get in these big discussions. Culturally, they talked when they greeted someone. So he's telling them, you don't waste any time. You go straight there. Lay my staff on the face of this child. Now, is there something magical about his staff? Is it like Lord of the Rings? What's his name? You know,
Gandalf.
Gandalf throwing power out of his staff? Magical? No.
It's just the symbol of his authority and his presence there.
Uh-huh.
It's his faith, but it's just his possession. It's
His
just
staff.
Yeah.
What did we learn about the word shalom?
Destroys the authority
Destroy the authority
to
attached to chaos.
Wow.
The word authority is what? The
Destroy.
letter Lamed. What, Myra?
I'm just.
The letter Lamed. What is the picture for the letter Lamed? A staff.
Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom. The staff was his symbol of authority. I'm placing my authority over this situation. You get it there ahead of me. I can't move as quick as you can. You take my authority. I'm taking authority over this situation. Right now, you go place this on him. I'm in charge. I'm taking authority over this situation. It shall not stand.
That's good.
Just like Moses' staff.
Yes.
It's Aaron's staff, actually.
Yes.
See Jesus looking out over the states and taking his staff,
Now see,
setting it.
my staff up
Ooh,
here,
That's good.
this is a shadapa. You know what shadapa is? If you don't shadapa, I'll knock your head off.
And see, I felt it in the air. I felt your
Huh?
It's
mischievous.
on the top.
That's an Italian
It's
Jew.
a knot.
There's too much maize in here.
Uh-huh.
Too much maize.
Too much maize.
Funny. Maze.
I know I'm an amazing character, that's right.
Funny.
South of the border.
He's referencing that I'm full of corn.
Yeah, which you can
The
digest.
Indian
Oh,
word for corn is
maize.
maize, yeah.
This
That's
time of year to go to those corn
He's
mazes.
saying I'm corny.
I love those
Yeah,
things.
we know that.
We
I
should-
can't help it.
Yes.
That's the way God made me. You don't like it.
I think the Lord delights in you and all your ways. But really, he does.
You have corns.
Huh?
You have corns.
I have what? I have what?
God.
Corns?
He is Moses' staff.
These are all kernels of very interesting information.
Now I want to get a staff. That's all I'm saying.
Awesome.
That represents our authority.
I used to have one.
Wow, I actually kind of do though. I'm like pray in my house.
Verse 30. And the mother of the child said, as the Lord lives and as your soul lives, I will not leave you. So he arose and followed her. Now Gehazi went on ahead of them and laid the staff on the face of the child. But there was neither voice nor hearing. Therefore he went back to meet him and told him, saying, the child has not awakened. I don't really think Elisha expected the child to be awakened with his staff. When Elisha came to the house, there was the child lying dead on his bed. And he went in, therefore, shut the door behind the two of them, and prayed to the Lord. And he went up and lay on the child, and put his mouth on his mouth, his eyes on his eyes, and his hands on his hands. And he stretched himself out on the child, and the flesh of the child became warm. He returned and walked back and forth in the house, and again went up and stretched himself out on him. And the child sneezed 7 times. And the child opened his eyes. And he called Gehazi and said, call the Shunammite woman. So he called her. And when she came into him, he said, pick up your son. So she went in, fell at his feet, and bowed to the ground, and picked up her son and went out.
That's
You see,
beautiful.
Elijah did the same thing. He went in and laid on top of somebody. He did the same thing. But I find it pretty interesting. Why in the world would a child sneeze 7 times?
Forget that devil.
Why 7? That's God's number, isn't it?
Completion.
Completion.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty pertinent. He took care of a woman. He's taking care of 2 now. A widow and a woman that was trying to help take care of him.
That's what God does.
He sure does. Verse 38. And Elisha returned to Gilgal, and there was a famine in the land. Now the sons of the prophets were sitting before him, and he said to his servant, put on the large pot and boil stew for the sons of the prophets. So one went out in the field to gather herbs and found a wild vine and gathered from it a lapful of wild gourds and came and sliced them into the pot of stew, though they did not know what they were. Then they served it to the men to eat. Now it happened as they were eating the stew that they cried out and said, "Man of God, there is death in the pot." And they could not eat it. So he said, "Then bring some flour." And he put it in the pot and said, "Serve it to the people, that they may eat, and there was nothing harmful in the pot."
It doesn't say they ate it, so they knew ahead of time.
Hmm?
They were eating
It doesn't
They
say
ate
that.
it. Yeah.
They poured it out for the men to eat.
No.
Oh, as they were eating the
Mhm.
stew. Sorry.
Ah, Nancy,
Yeah.
pay attention.
As Ron, his staff will come for you.
My rod and my staff might bonk you.
Can you anoint me with it?
I'll knock you.
Get you to sneeze 7 times.
So it was so bad, there was such little food that they went out looking for wild herbs. And guess what? There's a lot of wild food out there that you can eat. People in this country survived through the Great Depression by going out and eating wild stuff.
Yeah.
It grows naturally. You just have to know which it is and which it isn't. In this case, he went out and got the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It's we not got the wrong thing. Something's poisonous, but somehow Elisha made it by doing whatever he did, throwing that flour in the pot. I don't think the flour did it.
It was an action.
It was the action, yeah. Okay. I'm almost done, Myra. We're coming to an end for today for Elisha.
Well, the video is ruined because you said my name 3 times.
Ah! Well, quit sitting back there while I'm looking at you and making these facial
I was
expressions.
getting
Cause me that.
enthusiastic about stuff.
Huh?
I was just enthusiastic about
Oh,
stuff. And you
okay. Well, I can't tell what you're trying to convey. When you go like this,
I didn't do that.
you didn't? Oh, okay.
I never did that.
When you go like this, you go.
All right.
I never did that.
Okay, here's the last one. We're going to wind it down for today. I love these stories.
I do too.
And you think, well, why go over all this scripture? Because that's what God says to do. Write it on your forehead, write it on your heart.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Grind
walk
it
by
in.
the way and when you lie
Feed
down
it in,
and when
feed
you
it in,
rise
feed
up.
it in, feed. We've all read this, but hopefully I brought a little more enlightenment to it, a better understanding of it. Oh, I learned as I went. Then a man came from Baal Shalisha and brought the man of God bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley bread and newly ripened grain in his knapsack. And he said, "Give it to the people that they may eat." But his servant said,